Well, hey everybody, welcome to another live stream. I'm going to just do a quick check here, and oh, yeah, looks like I did not properly set this up, so let me go. All right. Glad to have you with me today. If you're watching this after the fact, which some of you might be, welcome as well. But yeah, very happy to be here once again, and hope that today is going to be a great, blessed experience. As you can see, I'm kind of going slightly more casual today, but yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to have your no, yeah, whatever. So today I'm going to talk about being a squirrelpreneur, and what do I mean by that, and kind of what that has done to my life and things like that. There's some good aspects and bad aspects of it. So uh, happy ending though. So I think so. I just wanted to preface that with that. It's actually a good and a good result here. So I'm just making sure that we're live. I can see we're live on YouTube. Let's see if we're live on Facebook as well. If you are viewing this today, I think you can go ahead and put something in the chat and I will see it, and I can even put it up on the screen because we have the technology. So make sure that this is actually live here on Facebook. This is showing me a little weird thing. Let me reload this page and see if it actually comes up. Video's live now. Okay. Yay. Okay. I see myself. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. But yeah, like I said, if you want to say hi, go ahead and pop that into the comments, and those should show up on my little screen here, and I can even put them up there. So if you have any questions throughout what we're going through, love to hear from you as well. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story and kind of how this all has played. And I'm actually going to draw from a previous presentation that I'm actually going to put up on the screen here as well. Um, and it's taking up all of my screen, so I need to bring that back. Yay! I love how that works sometimes. Anyway, here we go. Let's see if I can put this up on the screen properly. And I hit this button right here. Yay! Okay. Fascinating. Okay. I paused for a second there. That's kind of weird. But there's a verse in the Bible that really caught me recently. This is Ecclesiastes 11, 1 through 16. It says, ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, even 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Does that sound like it might be relevant for 2020 and 2021? Well, turns out there's not much new under the sun, as other verses in Ecclesiastes kind of allude to. But if the clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls in the south or the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. In other words, you can't affect that. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. This is a verse that I actually really came across recently as far as it having a significant impact in my life. And so I wanted to bring that up as kind of a formative part of what we're talking about today. So yeah, as far as the concept of, look, you don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. So having a diverse method of income or multiple ways you're investing and that sort of thing is really important. And this is a concept that if you do any kind of investment for retirement and that sort of thing, you'd be pretty unwise to like put all of your investments into one stock. Now, it might do really well for a while, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know if there's going to be a housing crash. You don't know if there's going to be a big boom. You don't know if there's going to be a, a pandemic that hits. The point is, you don't know what's going to come for the future. Now, what you can do, though, as this verse says, is to diversify and put your efforts into multiple ventures. So what I want to start with is the concept that is a good thing. It is a good and healthy thing to put yourself into multiple areas. Not put all your eggs in one basket, as they say, because if you drop the basket, you lose all your eggs. So it's a classic analogy, but it actually does work quite well. So that is the concept. Now, here's the problem. We look at things like this and we say, okay, yes, this is what I want to do. And we start doing it all at once. Well, the problem with doing that is that we become kind of lost in having a bunch of things incomplete. This was actually my story. So I started, well, truth is, I've actually kind of always been entrepreneurial in nature. Always been one of those outside of the box thinkers that it doesn't really do as well, being just an employee or like living in somebody else's vision. I've always been like that. From way back when, I actually found some drawings recently of me sitting in my little life in Penrose, Colorado, and drawing like a whole entire electronics catalog of me dreaming about, making and selling these things. And that was a part of my entrepreneurial dream as a kid. That's sort of the thing I had in mind, of starting a business to do that sort of thing. As I went along in college, I actually started a small little publishing company with the express purpose just of publishing my tapes and CDs and newsletters and things like that, and started offering some of those services for others as well, and had no idea what I was doing, but it was still the notion of doing it. There was something I'm just wired like that. I was like, well, if you tell me I can't, I'm gonna probably challenge that, and probably discover that yes, I can. And so there's a somewhat rebellious streak with that, but there's also just that notion of it's not something I can depend on others. I've always kind of had that notion of pulling myself up. And this comes a lot from my background. I was one of the latchkey kid generation, where mom and dad are both working, that sort of thing, and so you had the keys to the house, and so when you came home from the school, you were the one unlocking the house and coming in. And so they called that generation the first latchkey kids. It's funny these days, it's kind of unheard of. It's kind of weird how we've gone kind of full circle, but anyway, that was part of that generation of kids that had to learn to kind of fend for themselves a little bit and learn how to do these things. So I guess that was kind of born into me, I guess. And then, we didn't have a lot of money. And so, I had to work my way through college and things like that, and pay off debts and things like that. And so it's been a long journey of having to find and go and seek and that sort of thing, which actually is part of the problem that I'm going to be talking about today. Where that can be detrimental. So if you're like that, if you're one of those people that is very much a watching opportunities, just to come back to this verse here, and I think I can do this. Let's see if I can do it properly. Yes. Okay. So the problem is that sometimes we do this here, where if we watch the wind, we don't plant. We watch the clouds, we don't reap. well, for example, this morning I'm watching the cryptocurrency market, the Bitcoin, and all those kind of cryptocurrencies. There's dozens of them, and thinking to myself, "Gosh, man, if I had invested or kept my investments, those kind of things, and I would be, my house would be paid off right now. I mean, quite literally, that could be a result of that, just based on the way that market is going right now. But the reality is, when I was looking at it at the time, it was a time of flux and and crisis, and so I was watching the wind, and so I didn't do any further investing in that. In fact, I actually sold out at a pretty much the wrong time. Actually, absolutely the wrong time. But that was me watching the wind, and so I wasn't planting. Same thing with looking at the clouds, seeing that there's a storm coming. There's that. We shouldn't do anything. I should just like hold back and not uh, use any of the talents that I have right now, because, well, maybe someone will take it from me or something like that. There's things that we stories we tell ourselves that are totally based on this kind of stuff. But the reality is we don't know what any of this kind of stuff, how this works. We don't know this. We don't know how life works. We don't know how the future is going to be. And so the instruction is to, work, to not just be idle, not just show up and do things that are kind of rote, kind of like just what you normally do. That's not what this is saying. This is saying, go do your work and don't let your hands be idle, because you don't know which of your efforts are going to succeed. And so it's actually really important to have that notion. But what this is not saying, well, actually, I should say that there's an element of this that it is kind of saying as well, is that anxiety can definitely be something that comes into this. If you're watching the wind, that's kind of an allegory for anxiety as well, of saying, I'm somebody that's, I feel anxious about this. So, when we feel anxious, we tend to freeze up, is what we tend to do. But there's kind of that fight or flight response. And for me, just getting into the squirrelpreneur thing a little bit here, and I want to tell a little bit of a story here leading up to this. And again, if you have any questions of me, go ahead and put that in the chat. Also, I'd wanted to say that we are doing a fasting period from January 10th to the 20th, and I'm inviting everyone to join me in that. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is because I want to pour into you and help you through a process with that and give you my thoughts and my support. We will have a Facebook group that I'll be able to pour into support directly. So I do encourage you to join that. But I'll be continuing to go live throughout the next week or two, just to give thoughts and encouragements and things like that as we go along. But it's my belief that through that focus of fasting is where some of the biggest revelations in my life, not only in my personal life but in my business life, have come from. And so that's why I'm doing that. And so that's a big piece of that. But anyway, that set up the reason why I'm doing this. But the Squirrelpreneur thing is a couple of years ago, I would say 2011. I started doing independent consulting work, actually, largely inspired by being fired. And the day after I was fired, I found myself in a bookstore, and I picked up this book by my friend Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And it has just been absolutely transformative for me at that point. And I'll confess, I didn't even actually go through all 48 days of the process. The path became immediately, quote unquote, clear to me, what I should be doing. And so there was an opportunity to begin doing more independent consulting work and have some backing for that. So I wasn't actually an employee, but at the same time, I had a constant stream of work coming at me. And so I didn't have to worry about the things I'm really not good at, like marketing and stuff like that. And so I could just go right into it. And so that's exactly what I did. I went into um, a series of uh, consulting jobs here and there all across the nation, traveled constantly. Every Sunday, getting on a plane, coming back every Thursday. So it was very much a lifestyle as well as anything else, and it unlocked a lot of great opportunities. But eventually, I got to the point where I felt like I was saying the same things every time I was going into a consulting engagement, and started to realize that there's some gaps here. And so again, that entrepreneurial thinking of just like in college when I wanted to publish my own music, and I said, nobody's going to do this for me, I've got to do it myself. Started thinking similar kind of things about the consulting world, and about more specifically about the knowledge that people were having a gap in. And so I started looking into what I could do about that. And it was about 2015, 2016, something like that. I actually came across a couple of people. The first was Michael Hyatt, and he's actually a resident here in Franklin, actually. And spoiler alert, the reason I actually moved here to the Nashville area, to Franklin, was largely because of Michael Hyatt. And so, but he had a book called Platform, which, if you're interested in doing things like blogging and sharing what you know, fantastic book, still very relevant even today. Very much something, a good starting point, by the way. But there was a kind of a mini conference, like if I remember correctly, it was a couple of days of meeting, or having sessions with all these different people and exploring all the different things they were doing. And so experiencing people that I've actually even come to know now, like Pat Flynn and Cliff Ravenscraft and Dan Miller, like I mentioned before. I could just name drop till I'm blue in the face, but the reality is I got exposed to this world of being able to do this for a living, not just to teach as something that I did on a regular basis, but to say, okay, this is something that I could actually do for a living, and started, structuring towards that, and started exploring, what's going to be the best way to do this. And so fast forward to 2017, I started a blog, and was very focused on the technology world still, very much into the Citrix technology that I was really well known for. It became more and more well known in the space, started stepping beyond just my consulting work, and doing things for the community and things like that, and really just doing things that were guided by all these great works. But in 2017, when I moved to the Nashville area here to Franklin, I was actually working, or actually was brought on to a company, and so I put all of my independent consulting work to the side, and went to work full time as a director of technology at this company. But unfortunately, that didn't work out. And like I said in my stream yesterday, there's a story about how we actually ended up still buying a house, even though I was essentially unemployed. And it is something where there was a time period there where that was the time I decided to write the book that's right behind me here. Just Do This was actually the couple of days after I was let go from that job. I started writing and just poured myself into that, and book was the strategy, right? Well, unfortunately, this was also a time of being a little scared, and not knowing what was going to come next, but also being pretty excited about it, about all the opportunities that were in front of me. And it's like, okay, well, let's do this. This is like, I feel like I'm being pushed in this direction. Let's go for it. And so I went forward pretty radically in a lot of ways, writing a book in a month and that sort of thing. But then, instead of actually publishing the book, I actually attended a webinar, actually it was a whole conference kind of thing, a virtual conference kind of thing, back in December 2017. And I got exposed to the world of online courses. And I was like, wow, this is really this would be not only a good supplement for the book, but this is probably something I could do right now. I mean, actually, this probably makes more sense. Maybe I should just do this now. Um, and so I started investing in that. And then it was like a whirlwind after that. There was a bunch of things that happened all at once. One thing was, well, public speaking. Obviously, this is something that I have some skills at. For some reason, I have some God-given and also developed talents on communication. And being out in front of people like I am right now. So I looked at public speaking, and so I invested in some course materials for that. And then let's see what was next. I think it was pretty much right after that. Someone else, Stu McLaren, actually, and so membership sites were my next big thing. It's like, okay, well, I could kind of combine all these kind of things into a membership site and just have people, belong to a membership, and I'll just, do that. And so it went on from here. It just kept going, until I got about a year into this, and I had sort of launched a membership site that sort of worked. It had about 15 people in it that were paying me, I believe, $30 a month or something like that. And so as a concept, yeah, it was working, but it wasn't working very well. And so it was something where I was just spinning my wheels. And yeah, I kind of had a kind of a breakdown moment of just like, oh, this is never going to work. And so that was actually in 2019 that I really just figured out that I was just feeling like I was spinning my wheels and doing all these things. And it really came down to the fact that I wasn't really focused enough on one thing. There was always something new that I was learning. I was like obsessed with learning. And at one point, I looked down and I kind of started to tally up what I'd spent on resources, on events, on courses, on tools, on software, on services, all these kind of things. I just started putting it all together and was shocked to learn that I'd spent about maybe $30,000 on stuff that I'd made like maybe $200. It was a serious punch to the gut of saying, gosh, I'm not being a very good steward of these resources here. And really what it becomes, and I'm going to actually find this slide that I used last time I was talking about this. So bear with me just a moment while I talk through. We're going to talk next week more about the yeah. I can put this up. So this is just talking through my entrepreneur journey. This is actually slides from a talk that I gave to Dan Miller's 48 Days Eagles community. But anyway, this is kind of going through all of those kind of things. Oh yeah, I forgot about Platform University and just, yeah, all these things, just so many resources and coaching. And I think I'm going to talk about this next time. Hang on a second. I'm going to talk about the 5 pillars. I talked about that yesterday a little bit, and so I'll talk about more about that soon in another live, and how that kind of goes. But sorry, I apologize. I am not getting. I'm telling the story quite well, but I'm okay. Here we go. Lots of clicks through, like how sometimes when you have a PowerPoint presentation, you do each one as an individual click. Well, I'm doing this with my mouse today, so it's a little awkward. So yeah, there was a lot of things that I did in 2019 that were good, but then I kind of had a moment of just hating this and shutting down and just really just starting over again, pretty much, and decided that transitioning away from technology might be something I need to do, because I figured maybe it was just the fact that my audience was the wrong audience, kind of thing, or my solution was the wrong solution. But then I had a freak out at another live event that I was at. I was like, what am I going to do here? Yeah, a podcast. Yeah, I'll do a podcast. Yeah, that'll fix all my problems. And so, yeah, that didn't work very well. But then I noticed people that coach at conferences that they really one-on-one, I seem to do really well. So that's what I focused in on, as far as that goes. Started coaching people, and then yeah, so $35,000, and I had now at that point I had 3 people in a mastermind, paying me I think $200 a month or something like that. So it was a good start, but it led me to the conclusion that either something's wrong with what I'm doing or something's wrong with these programs. So the question was, why don't these work for me? Why don't I see it working all the time for other people, and I'm sure others have probably been right there with me. You can say something in the comments if this is you, where you've seen things work for other people, but it just doesn't seem to work for you. And that's a common thing that I hear and have experienced. So yeah, maybe I just need to add more stuff on. That's probably what it is. It's like they're doing 3 things and I'm only doing 2 things. So I just need to add a third on. That's probably what I need to do, right? That's probably the key here. And so I noticed that there's a thing that these people do that are very much based on emotion to sell. Very much like you need this in your life. You're going to be incomplete and missing out, and you're not going to be enough if you don't have this thing. And so whenever you're going through a conference and there's a product that's launched at that conference, it's always built up to feel like you need to have this product. Not necessarily a bad thing, but this is something that I've noticed that we need to be aware of. And when it comes to people that are being marketed to, yeah, we're feeling like they're talking directly to us because they know us. They know us quite well. And like I said, we're supposed to have multiple income streams, right? So this all starts to feel like almost like this multi-level marketing, where we're having multiple income streams. And like I mentioned, the cryptocurrency market right now feels like, well, where's all this money coming from? This is kind of awkward. Like is someone else losing so I can win? The problem is us and our approach, and that's really what it comes down to. So I'm going to go forward a little bit about, because I don't want to be on terribly longer, but here we go. The Squirrelpreneur problem. I talked about the parable of the talents, and I'm going to talk more next week about that in much more detail. But the desire to serve kind of collides with our feelings that we are enough. We don't connect properly, these 2 things, and so we think that well, just feeling like we're enough is an emotion. Like there's the guilt and things like that come with feeling like, oh gosh, I have all these talents and I'm not using them. That's one thing, but really just feeling like we are enough to be to make God happy with us. It's like this thing we think we default back to that human nature of thinking we need to do more to get more grace, or do more to get more glory. Neither are true. But there's these fears we have in this with our businesses and our side ventures or whatever, that if we want to make them successful, that we just don't have enough with what we have today. We just don't. We just never feel like we have enough, and we want to serve deeply and serve more, but we just don't have enough to do that. So we hear something from a guru, like a launch system or something like that, or like and trust me, I'm right in this space. I actually am trying to do this with people in the technology world right now. I have books and products that are literally for this kind of thing, where it's just like, look, if you want this result, here's a way to get that faster. It makes some sense. But what happens in a lot of the entrepreneurial spaces is that there's a feeling that's attached to this, that we feel like we're not doing enough, so we need to do something right now to remedy that. There's that call to action, that expiring offer, that if we don't do it now, we're gonna want to do it at some point in our life, and if we don't do it right now, we're gonna miss out on the best price we could possibly get. And that's something that is very much a motivator. And in some ways, that's good. And sometimes we need that push. We need that push towards action to get knowledge we don't have. Dan Miller, I mentioned earlier, actually gave me some wisdom on this back in 2017, I think it was, about always investing in yourself. That you really should be investing like 10% or more of anything you earn back into yourself. And so that's kind of the notion that I have here. So I'm not saying that these are bad to do, but what I'm saying is that doing it for the wrong reason, like we just don't believe we're enough, that we have to take action now, we're going to miss out. Those are bad reasons. The problem is, once we buy into these programs, we stop doing what we were doing before. I stop that course. I've got actually, I went through this again in the last few weeks, taking an inventory of just how many courses that have been given or bought, or all these kind of things, that just in online courses alone. I'm not talking books at all. That actually gets even more depressing. But the sheer number of ones that I've started and then never completed because I got on to the next launch and the next thing, and it was like kind of like, oh, I have to do this right now because my business isn't working because of this one thing, so I need to fix this one thing, and then my business will magically work. And so we stop doing what we're doing, we pivot to that other course that we've been doing, and we do that pivot, and we tell everybody about it, and everybody cheers. Everybody says, "Yay, you're so brave for doing this. You really are courageous. I'm glad you're finding your purpose," and we cheer each other on. And then squirrel from the movie Up, of course. Doug is like, I actually have thought about, I usually call this Squirrelpreneur. Sometimes I wanted to call it a Dougpreneur, but I think that might be a little bit, that'd be too awkward. But the problem is that we aren't sure that our new system is enough anymore. And so we hear another system from another expert, and their pitch works because we still believe what we're doing is not enough. And then we stop what we're doing again, and we learn a new course, and we pivot again, and we're again brave. And then, yeah, you see where I'm going with this, right? So this is the problem that I feel is confronting a lot of people that are either in business today for themselves, are a digital entrepreneur especially, but it's also very true of people that are doing things in like brick and mortar and e-commerce and things like that. And the reason why is we're living in a weird time. We're living in a time that has presented challenges that we didn't expect. The wind's blowing in a different direction than we thought it was. But I'm not really great at predicting future, obviously. But let me just tell you about some things about what I did to kind of fix this first, and then I'll go into what I think is coming up and why I decided to do some fasting. So first of all, last year I declared back before coronavirus hit that 2020 would be the year of taking bigger risks, risking bigger, doing bigger things. And so I said, okay, in order to do this, though, I need to choose one thing. And so that one thing was publishing a book. And so I published it kind of took the quick path. I had already promised to publish a book of material for a membership site. And so what I did was I went ahead and grabbed all that material, edited it down, grabbed some people to proofread it for me, and pushed it out. And that is the one you can see behind me, this orange, or sorry, I guess orange, yellow, whatever, Be a Citrix Hero is that first book. And so that was in, I believe, March that I pushed that out and self-published and got it done. At the risk of not doing a lot of consulting work and not doing the things that were giving me income at that time, not taking any new consulting work, which actually in that world is a bit of a problem. There's a lag of taking contracts. If you don't have a next contract lined up, you might find yourself in kind of a period of no income. And so that is a risk. And so that was a risk. And then, just putting it out there in general, a lot of things about this that, I'm talking about, a subject matter that, a lot of people know about. And so am I sure I know my stuff? And, there's a lot of things about that were very risky. But I did go ahead and do that. And then what ended up happening was I ignored everything else until that was done. I shut down the podcast. I even shut down my mastermind. I did only minimal coaching just to serve people. There's a saying I have that, you won't rise to the occasion. You'll only rise to your level of preparedness. And that is something that it really is kind of key in my life. And so I felt like I did need to keep doing coaching as far as coaching people, but just really focused on just serving them, keeping fresh. And, it's kind of a mutual benefit. They got coaching from me. I stayed fresh on it. But I wasn't like looking to do that full time or anything like that. I was focused on publishing the books because that needed to get done. So the first book was practice. Second book was more, but it was more of a mindset of all these other pillars of business that I have that I've talked about, and I'll talk about more next week. Were not being developed. No further building on anything else until these were actually published. And the good news is that I actually did manage to self-publish 2 books last year, which is fantastic. Now, I'm not going to say that this is meant that I'm now all of a sudden a multi-million-dollar author. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work like that at all, actually. I'm still very much under as far as what I've invested in the writing and marketing of these books. I'm still very much not even close to have turned any kind of a profit with this. But I got it done, and that to me is really a big piece of this, is focusing in on choosing that one thing and getting it done. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about next week. I'm going to bring this concept back up and talk about how you can go from a from a 2-talent person given 4 talents. We're looking at a progression there of how do you be trusted with more. And so I want to focus in on this year other people like myself that really either are doing kind of a reset or really need to just focus in on the next thing to build up a kind of a portfolio of either services or things like that that are viable, but doing it in such a way that actually makes sense and doesn't make it so that you're trying to do all the things all at once. And so I'm actually I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, because we'll be talking about this a lot next week, and so I don't want to. I'm already driving myself hoarse, as you can hear. But this is something, like I said, I do want you to consider joining us in an actual fast for the 10th to the 20th. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a special guest joining me on a live stream. My friend Kevin Davis, he's the author of Just Tell Me What to Do, fantastic book about the key to lifestyle, but he brings a Christian perspective to this that I think is really important. And so I wanted to bring that on and give you some options on how to fast and sort of the medical reasons for that. Honestly, even if you're not fasting, this would be a great thing for you to visit and revisit going on tomorrow. So if you're on with us live, you can ask questions and that sort of thing. But yeah, until then, we'll do that. But in the meantime, definitely, if you can, uh, join our Facebook group and share it. Just share what we're doing. There's lots of people out there that are in either a space where they want to support others that are doing this, or want to look at becoming more of a entrepreneur themselves, or a like having a side hustle kind of a thing, or a side gig. And so really my approach with this is to say, approach this with prayer and fasting first. Don't just jump into something because it feels like it might be right, or it might be good, or it might fill that missing niche, that one thing that you're missing in your life. That's the wrong reason to jump into a new venture. Do it because you feel like this is something that God has led you towards, precisely because you are uniquely called and qualified to do this. Very important. So I mentioned, wow, see that brain fog is already kind of starting with me. Apparently, I've sworn off coffee in preparation for the fast, and so my brain is adjusting to the no caffeine, I think. But okay, somebody called me out in the chat or something like that to what I was talking about. I was talking about the concepts of being a squirrelpreneur, and why I think that's going to be important for this year. And let me take a drink because this is getting bad. Drink lots of water in preparation for and during fasting. Lots and lots of water. We're living in a time of always feeling like there's some other shoe that's going to drop, to use that metaphor. There's always some other thing that's going to happen. There's always going to be something that is coming. Well, if we read Ecclesiastes again, that tells us what we need to know right there. It's like, this is not new. As far as the circumstances might be new, but the concepts are not. So I think that there are going to be a lot more people wanting to supplement their income, or even have new complete incomes in 2021 than we have ever seen before. And I think there's a lot of this. It's a kind of a carryover from 2020. There was a lot of people that started new ventures in the midst of a supposedly down economy. I've watched people launch businesses that have been thriving, and working from home doing it. Their willingness to pivot and use their skills and resources in new ways have paid off very well. I think a lot of other people have been holding off to see if somehow magically we turn to January 1st and all of a sudden the world changes. I genuinely don't know how people have that notion that if we could just get through 2020, 2021 will be better. I genuinely don't know how that mentality has come about. It's crazy when you think about it. Come on. Sorry, not to use I know it's a bad word to use, but come on. It's not reality that you think that just because the calendar turns, the circumstances are going to get better. We know this now, right? We've seen they're getting the wake up call. So the question becomes, do you think that's going to be over? You think that it's going to magically just, and I literally don't care about anything about politics or anything like that right now. Not my concern. The world is the world, and there are things that are much bigger than just people's opinions that are causing a lot of things going on right now. And I don't want to get into a lot of that. There's things I believe about it. There's some things that other people believe about it. We've agreed to agree and disagree on that, obviously. But the thing is, I believe that this next year, we're going to see that wake up call to say, you know what? I can't really depend on just my job. If I just have my job and my job just ups and leaves, then I just have no money. There's only so far you can go with savings and things like that. Savings are important, by the way. Very important to have not only a safety net, but several months of cushion that came into our lives, very much so. But there's some things that you need to realize is that, like I said, there's a lot of people that I think are going to come to this realization that there are a lot of things coming that we don't know about and we can't know about. We can't predict this, and so it sounds weird to the DJ. Aren't you predicting that people are going to say that you can't predict things? Oh yeah, whatever. But just looking at the trends, I genuinely think that is something we can see a lot more of, as people coming to wake up to this reality that just having one place where they are serving and earning is not going to be adequate. And so I think we'll see a lot more people doing things out of their home. A lot of people doing, and whether it's doing things like my wife does these wonderful leather crafts and things like that she's now able to sell to others and bless them with that. Whether it's just doing other things or just doing kind of what I do, or I'm serving and coaching out of my home, and there's going to be a lot more of that kind of thing going on, where you have multiple different methods and streams of income that are going to be important to people. So it's going to be important to seek out what God has for you in that, and say, okay, what direction? Because a lot of times the answer is, I've created you to be the kind of being who knows what to do. Just go do it. that sometimes is the answer. But it's through that prayer and fasting that we really break things down to build them back up. And it's not just a metaphor. In fact, as we'll be talking with Kevin tomorrow, it's a literal reality. So do make sure you join us for that. Get a reminder in the Facebook group, and I'll be putting it up later again. But building it up again from being torn down is actually really important for a lot of different things in our lives. The metaphor train is fully fueled and is ready to leave the station, folks. It's going to happen. So anyway, I really appreciate you being with me today, and I am going to close with just some encouragement that, again, we're all going to be going to be fasting from the 10th to the 20th. I encourage you, if nothing else, just to figure out something that you can give up during this time, that you can actually have some purposeful discomfort, which is something I talked about previously, about what fasting is, putting yourself into a purposeful discomfort, and going through that effort. And my goal, like I said, is really to support people that are doing that. And so I'm there as a resource to answer questions, to encourage you, to even to challenge you in some ways. That's one of the things that I will be doing in the Facebook group, and some of the breakout Zoom sessions and things like that we're looking at doing, is to spend some time challenging people and really diving in and seeing, okay, what can we do in a way that's going to be more significant, and not just kind of getting credit for effort, which is something that actually does happen quite a bit. So we want to avoid that. So anyway, that's coming up. Like I said, one last time, feel free to join us in that Facebook group. It is private, but it is something I'm letting people in. There's just a couple of questions to answer, and then I will evaluate that and make sure that you're the right material for this. The criteria is that you are a Christ follower. This is not the right venue for questions about your questions about your faith and things like that. Right venue for that is contact me privately. Message me. We'll get on a call. We'll talk about it. That's the right venue for that. But in this kind of thing, we're really going to be diving in deep and being vulnerable. I wanted to make this private because, frankly, when you're going through fasting, you get a lot of emotions and things like that are coming up. So I wanted to have a more tight-knit group that was able to support each other in a less threatening I don't like the word safe spaces, but I do want it to be a safe environment, where you're not feeling like you can't share. I want you to feel like you can and should share. So that's what we're doing there. So anyway, thanks again for being with me, and I will see you tomorrow with Kevin at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So that's 10 o'clock Central. And yeah, I'll let you do the time zone thing. But thanks for being with me, and we will see you next time.